advanced framing wall here where it's basically a typical wooden structure where we actually have our spacing spaced properly so that everything basically transfers. Meaning on top of my foundation wall that's concrete, I have basically a mud sill, and I have my floor joists, then I have my sheathing, and my studs stack on top of my floor joists, transferring the weight. And as we go up the wall, my ceiling joists and my roof rafters or my ceiling truss actually rest on top of the top plates, which transfer the load straight down to the foundation walls. Doing this allows us to have a wider wall cavity. Wider wall cavities mean more insulation rather than a lot of wood in our walls.
Sure.
or metal. It's going to reduce the amount of thermal bridging that might occur. Thermal bridging is basically the cold air on the exterior or hot, basically warming up our stud or cooling it down and then transferring that hot cold into the building. So the amount of wood that we have reduces the amount of thermal bridging that might come into the building, possibly heat up the building, cool down the building. So it's really important that we do that because we want as much insulation in
Sure.
the wall as possible. And here is an example where we have what's called ladder backing, where we're able to stick our insulation in between our ladder panels and still nail our material together, our interior walls and our exterior walls, and also our drywallers. Our drywallers are going to have an area to nail their materials to or screw it.
Sure.
And that way we can get more insulation in there. And as you see over here, what we've done, we've took the exterior sheathing, and then what we've done is actually kissed it with some spray foam.
Okay.
Meaning we've touched the edges where there might be any seams or air leaks. What this is doing is preventing our conditioned air from inside of our building envelope to leak out. So if I'm heating up my building, I don't want that hot air leaving my building. I want it to stay inside. With the use of air sealing and then insulation, I can keep a very comfortable building by having it, heated, and it's going to stay heated.
Okay.
We can put energy efficient appliances, the furnace up on the roof. We can come up with LED lights. But if we don't do the building envelope properly, it's like leaving a window open.
Sure. Makes a big difference.
Big difference. Over here, same thing. We have basically less material being used. And what we're doing also with advanced frame is we're allowing our headers to be properly sized.
Okay.
Where they used to just be, say, a 2x12s being put into place. Now we're sizing them properly. So this is a 2x6 that's on its side, which isn't supportive. But with our roof truss going the other direction, our main support would be on this side of the wall.
Okay.
So there's no weight bearing on this
Sure.
length of the wall. So rather than putting a header in somewhere where we don't need it, we can actually fill that cavity now with more insulation. So now we have a more thermally comfort building.
Whereas before, normal process would kind of come in, double everything up because it's an opening, regardless of how it's being treated.
We would be putting 2-3 studs in place, extra material in here, which reduces the amount of insulation being allowed into that wall cavity.
Okay.
On our insulation here, this little paper, this craft face paper, is a vapor barrier. So that vapor barrier is important because it keeps the vapor from inside of our building from migrating into our building cavity, which in the wintertime may be a lot colder than our interior of our building. Well, what happens is with that moisture going into our building cavity, if it goes below the dew point, the temperature in there, we get condensation to occur. We get condensation, then we're going to have the molds and mildews building up inside of our wall cavity. We're going to have health issues. Sure. So it's important we have a vapor barrier put in place right next to our thermal. And that's why it's critical that we also have our air sealing in our building done properly. Another thing that we do, we've added insulation, we've added extra rigid foam insulation just to get a higher R value, a larger thermal resistance to that heat flow.